Well, hello and welcome to this edition of Talk Time. And today we will be talking energy. We're talking perhaps also about some research findings and so on. We'll just be talking about how we can or may achieve energy sufficiency. Welcome to Talk Time.
Hello, information.
Madam,
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, are they?
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I even called. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg go guys.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. Yomo, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Well, hello and welcome back to Talk Time. And as I indicated from the beginning, we are talking about energy. And we are indeed very privileged to have with us Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Policy and Research.
Thank you, sir.
So you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Now, this institute, what does it do?
Basically, we are into research into government policy and how effective it is in terms of implementation. Many a times you have the government churning out some of these policies, and we look at how practical it is for these policies to be implemented. My background is energy and business. And one of the things that I noticed was that you have an instance where government keeps coming out with these policies, but then the practicality of it is zero. So what we basically look at is, okay, you've come out with, a typical example is the Act 832, which is a Renewable Energy Act. When it came out, up to today, it hasn't really been operationalized. And part of it is because most of the things that were said in there were not practical. So that is mainly what we do. And we also try to publish on the quarterly basis some of the government or state-owned agencies in the energy sector that is doing well or not doing well, and offer opinion on some of the things that they want to do. More or less keep those in power in check.
The renewable energy sector, you don't appear to think that is doing very well.
Not at all. If you look at the trajectory that it was on, we've just, every time the politicians have mentioned a certain amount of in the basket of renewable energy in terms of what we are doing for thermal, what we are doing for hydro, we have expected that we are about 23% mix. We would have gone far than the 23% that we are at this point, and it stagnated. It hasn't really improved. There was a feed-in tariff regime which basically made it easier for people to come in, look at the environment, look at how much PULC have set for whether you're doing solar, whether you're doing wind, whether you're doing any of the energy mix, what the feed-in tariff is. If it meets your business module, you go ahead and now do it. Because of the issue of the overcapacity from the 2012 to 2016 era, government held back later part of 2016 that there isn't going to be any more additional energy, be it solar, be it renewable, be it anything. So that sort of now halted that progression, because at the latter stage of 2016, there were quite a number of companies that have signed power purchase agreements to bring in solar and other technologies. There was this one which was even wave, underwater wave technology and whatever. But look, it's stagnated for whatever reason it is. It hasn't improved the way we thought it should improve.
When you talk about feed-in tariff, what exactly are you talking about? And
okay, so
what is the policy?
Okay, so in the like I mentioned, the Act 832, which is the Renewable Energy Act, A feed-in tariff is the price at which government, which is ECG, is prepared to take the power from the independent power producer. So instead of everybody coming in to say that, okay, we are going to do a one-on-one negotiation, there is no one-on-one negotiation. What there is that PULC will sit down and look at the environment and the factors that contribute and say, look, I'm setting 12 cents per kilowatt hour for solar. I'm setting 14 cents per kilowatt hour for wind. I'm setting 10 cents per kilowatt hour for maybe biomass to energy. That's what PULC is prepared to take in. So you are an investor, you come in, you go to PULC, they give you what the feed-in tariff is. Then you do your own business module and your feasibility and see that can you generate power at that price. If you can, you just basically sign a power purchase agreement with ECG based on that feed-in tariff that has already been agreed. So that is the price at which you feed into the grid. Okay, so, but like I said, that has been amended. Going forward, the 832 was amended, I think, in 2019. And the feed-in tariff has been taken out. So now there's a new regime that has come up that we are still trying to look at how well that one also works. So that's what the feed-in tariff is.
So what you're practically saying is that if I come in as an investor and I say I'm going to produce solar, there's no standard tariff?
For now, no. Because we've scrapped the feed-in tariff. Before, there was. PULC every year will give what the feed-in tariff is. So you don't need to go and look for the minister, you don't need to go and look for anybody. PULC has a price which was published and gazetted, and that was the price that if you come and want to do solar, that is the price you go with. But now there isn't any such thing.
What does the energy mix look like now?
The energy mix now is, the numbers are a bit muffled in my head, but hydro, in the past we had Pong, Akosombo, and Biu. Biu came in later, so we had Pong and Akosombo. Both of them were doing about 1,000. Akosombo is about 1,003, which is the installed plus what we can rely on. Pong is about just a little bit over 200. So call that 2,200 Pong and Akosombo. Now, the thermal mix is giving us around 3,000. Okay, so in terms of the solar, is quite small. It's not even up to the 23% that everybody talks of. Biu is not as reliable because, Biu is really what you call a plant that comes on in the evening. So it's really like a stabilization plant. So you don't really rely on that as your installed capacity. It's to stabilize the power in the evening. It will now come on when you need that excess capacity. So the main mix you have is about 3,000 megawatts of thermal plants. And if you put Pong and Akosombo together, you're looking at about 1,200 reliable capacity.
So we are more reliant on thermal generation.
Thermal, yes, because that's the growth. That's where the growth has been. Now you being Pan-African TV, you might be probably interested in what pertained before independence and after independence. Dr. Sajofo, in his wisdom, felt that in the long run, nuclear was going to be what we needed. So he formed the Atomic Energy even before Akosombo. So the Nuclear Institute was formed. Then he now got the Americans to partner us to do Akosombo. But his long term was that nuclear will be what we would rely on because he had that vision at the time. And then in one of the papers I've cited, which he did, was that he also felt strongly in the Western rivers, in the small scale renewable streams that we can have. So Tano and Cobra, Pra. And he also, in the Volta region, there were some other rivers that at that time he conducted feasibility. That after we've done the main rivers, which was the Volta, giving us Akosombo and Pong, we will now look at nuclear. And then for renewable, he was looking at small streams, which will now be what you really call embedded technology, which is don't produce the electricity for the whole nation. But if you look at, let's say, Ankobra, you put generation in Ankobra for the Pristia, Takwa environs. So that was the vision. But along the line, we lost that track and basically went to thermal, where we didn't have gas at that time, but we relied on Nigeria to give us the gas from the West African gas pipeline. Then later on, we found our own gas. Then we now got the Ghana gas, which feed in the other plants in Takrady and in Terminal. So yes, now about 3,000 of our mix is thermal.
What is the costs? You know, what are the cost implications of this mix?
Really, initially you would think that hydro is cheaper, but hydro comes with initial what you call capex, the initial cost of putting up the infrastructure. The operational cost is cheaper because after you've paid up the initial investment, now we are taking water from Akosombo at something like 3 cents. Thermal, the initial investment is not that huge, but then the cost of the feeding, which is the source of the energy, which is gas, you need to pay for it. Akosombo, the source of energy is free, it's water. When it rains into the Akosombo, you use that to turn the turbine. So your operational cost is probably fixed, and you're basically getting, as long as there's river in the Akosombo dam, it's free. In the thermal, you are looking at a cost of the generating of it's like having a generator in your house. The generator has a cost. Then you have to buy fuel. So there's a fuel cost, and there's then the OPEX, the operation cost of the plant. So I'm sure you heard about this capacity charge and all that. So there is fixed O&M and then variable O&M. Your fixed O&M is the cost basically in running the plant, and the variable O&M is the maintenance cost that you have in those areas. So in terms of cost analysis, if we are to initially find the money to build these dams, yes, initially it's expensive, but after you've paid off, you've amortized the debt, it now becomes a cheaper form of electricity as compared to the thermal, which we are now fixated on, and everybody is now looking at thermal plants, which has 2 components. One is the cost of the energy that goes into the plant, and also the fixed and variable cost which you associated with that.
But we have a major constraint,
Yes.
which is simply the fact that waters have to flow
Yes.
to build dams.
Yes.
You know. Anyway, so how do you see us going into the future? There is nuclear, which you've spoken about, and there are fears about its safety and so on. Even with hydro, we can't be so sure and so on. How do you see us going into the future? What should we be doing in terms of energy policy?
Well, if you look at the national policy, which is one that was done by his late P.B. Obin's outfit, the National Development
Planning Authority.
Plan Authority, yes, they set 50,000 megawatts by 2050. Now, the question is, we are now around 4,000 megawatts. How do you get to 50,000? I have always said that Ghana is not going to expire. Okay, we've done 60 years of Ghana. There will be another 100 years of Ghana. When Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did Akosombo in the 50s, Akosombo was seen like, why does a small country like Ghana need this much power? 60 years on, we've outgrown it. So in 60 years' time, we'll have outgrown what we have now. The point is, can we have thermal dotted around the country? Because the biggest thermal plant you probably have about 400 megawatts. So if you're trying to do 4,000 megawatts, you have 10 400 megawatts dotted around the country. I'm sure you've heard about the relocation of the Ameri to the Ashanti area. The policy is that all our thermal generation is along the coastal line, and security, national disaster, everything is not the best. So we should try and move some of our thermal into the inner part of the nation. The constraint is that how do you feed it with the gas that you need? So if we are looking at another 5,000 megawatts and we are trying to do that through thermal, we are going to have about 10 or 15 plants all around the country. And when you have so many moving parts, then the problems, it's also introduced into your mix. That's why nuclear becomes the next big thing. We are going to be able to do one big plant that will now take Ghana for the next 60 years. So a nuclear plant today will be what Akosombo was for us in the 50s. Meaning that we can now assure ourselves for the next 60 years, we have a reliable source of energy. And people talk of, look, we can't even take out our trash or manage our basic things. How are we going to manage nuclear? Which is a concern. But you realize that everywhere that nuclear has been done, it's not been done by just any other company. There is strict compliance, and in Ghana right now we are at the second stage of the process. France is one of the biggest companies that have a lot of technology in nuclear. There are other companies in Europe that are very good. Even the one being built in UK is being built by the French. So we would have to, if the politicians don't involve themselves the way they do every other procurement, we would have to go for the best, who would now give us the best safety. My concern would be, where do we site it? Okay, it has to be sited near water. And for me, I don't know where or what the thinking is where that nuclear plant will be sited, because it will have to also be sited in an area that is a bit far away from inhabitation. So we have to have a certain exclusion zone where to still. There's a lot of process that we need to go in, but the next big thing that we need as a nation is nuclear to guarantee us a certain amount of cheap, reliable energy for the next 60 years.
Well, viewers, we are talking to an expert. We are talking to the executive director of the Institute of Energy Policy and Research. We are talking to Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku. Thanks for the correction.
Keys.
Yeah, Nsafoah Poku.
Yes.
And we are talking about energy policy, and we are talking about the general energy situation. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, I'd like to ask specifically about some of the alternative energy sources like wind power and so on. So, short break.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community off Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Well, welcome back to Talk Time, and we are in a conversation with Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Policy and Research. So we're talking generally about energy. There's been so much talk about wind energy and its potential. Is there really a potential for wind energy?
Well, with every technology, there are its pros and cons. You need to find a wind corridor. So when you talk of wind energy, it's not the turbines that generate wind. Normally, wind in the past has been done in certain embedded areas where there is a very good velocity of wind. So you need to do a lot of studies at a certain height in the air. So I can't remember what the height is, but you need to also now be able to find a minimum of 30 meters per second wind velocity. And you need to now have a steady for a certain period of time. And I think in Ghana, we've identified one or two corridors for wind. It's not everywhere that you can have a wind turbine. So it's the studies. One of the biggest problem we've had in Ghana is feasibility. One being that individual companies don't have the money to do what you call risk equity. You've come up with an idea, you spend your own money to do this feasibility. I have a company called Small Hydro Development Company Limited. We invested in our own money to put loggers on the Ankobra River, and we've been doing that for the last 10 years because we need to pick a lot of hydro data from the Ankobra. When we go to hydro survey, they didn't have it, so we need to spend money to do it ourselves. Same way, if you are interested in developing wind, you would have to put in the technology and the calibrators and all the velocity readers to gather the information. So that has been the stumbling block for us developing some of these technologies. So yes, we have wind corridors. Exactly where it is, I'm not too sure, but I know we've identified like 2 wind corridors in Ghana.
You're talking about the Winneba corridor, for example, Anyway, the idea of developing mini hydro projects, that's how it was put in the 7-year development plan, appears to have been abandoned.
Yes.
Is it sensible to abandon the mini hydro project?
No, and I just mentioned Small Hydro Development Company Limited. It's a company that I started in 2012 with 2 gentlemen, Mr. INSTEPR and Mr. Alote, who worked at Hydro Survey, and when they left, I partnered them. The reason it has been abandoned is the same thing I talked about earlier. the initial cost. When there was a feed-in tariff, we were comfortable. At that time, it was about 13 cents per kilowatt hour. We had partnered Night PSO in Canada, Alberta, and we were comfortable we could generate at 2 sites. We had 3 sites, Maham, Inswayem, and Takwa Breman. We were comfortable we can do Maham because at Maham, the Bonsa River meets the Ankobra, so the flow is much heavier there. Mm-hmm. So we thought we could do something around that 13 cents per kilowatt hour at Maham. But the point is that, like I said, around the 2013, all new power purchase agreements were stopped because of the excess capacity that has been signed. Going forward, what we expected the government to do was to now say, okay, look, because small or mini hydros are renewable, you have this technology called run-of-river technology. It means that you are not inundating, you are not flooding any communities, okay? Mm-hmm. And because of that technology, it's green. Because it's green, give me a little bit more money compared to what you would give to other technologies, so that I can build that plant and save environment, all the above that you want to think of. The government has still not responded. What they did was that they now created Biu Power Authority, went and changed the policy for Biu Power Authority and said that Biu Power should be the employer's representative. So companies like us have to now go to Biu Power and negotiate with them in the building of Ankobra River and all the other river, Tanopra and all those things. It has been a challenge because Biu Power also have their own ideas, what they want to do and all that. So that is why it has stalled. It is a change of the policy and government's own lackadaisical approach to how they think that those mini hydros can help. That's the problem.
We are getting some very serious power outages. In fact, as we sit in the studio, we are depending on a generation plant, What accounts for these frequent power outages?
For now, if you look at the energy mix that we have, in 2017, 2018, there was a lot of talk about overcapacity and excess capacity. Yes, in 2017, 2018, we had a lot more power that we didn't need. But coming into 2018, 2019, we've now used up that excess capacity. Now we are in the region of what you call a spin capacity. Really, what the spin capacity is that the technocrats in that area says, look, if you are to have, let's say, 4,000 megawatts of generation power, you need about 18 to 20% of spin, which is your buffer, just in case you need to do maintenance and stuff like that. That is where we are now for our generation. We are about 800 megawatts above what we really need, which is really what you need for your spin capacity. What is causing the major lights off in most places in Accra now and other parts of the country is really machines that need to be replaced. ECG needs to find money, and basically the transformers, some of them are very old. There are certain areas that, because of the development in that area, there's overloading of those transformers, so they need to do an insertion. We don't have generation problem because we are in a good place in terms of the number of capacity that we have, but the excess that is coming in, which is the excess of the lights off, is mostly to do with localized faults. When it rains, some lights, some power is going off, and mostly transformers overloading. That's the main problem now, and ECG needs to find the money. We thought when the PDS was abandoned, government will have still went on that path to find a private sector participation investor, but it looks like that has been abandoned, and we don't know when that will happen. But we need that about $500 million in that space for distribution to build a very robust distribution system.
One of the major complaints also has to do with the level of tariffs.
Yes.
Can it be lowered?
As we speak now, it has to be increased. As we speak now, it has to be increased, because when the last review was done by PURC, they used a dollar rate of 7.45. Okay, and that was the rates that were given. Now we all know what the dollar is. The dollar is about 14. So clearly, every kilowatt hour me and you are enjoying, the energy sector is building up indebtedness because we have to pay a certain amount. The losses in the system, some of us have said that this 500 million that I talked of earlier comes in, and you change some of these old transformers Gridco gets some investment to change their lines, you reduce the losses. Now we have about 10% technical losses and about 19% commercial losses. The commercial losses, ECG have no excuse. They have to just get people off their back to go and work and collect the money, stop the illegal connections and all that. That, I heard Dubik is doing a good job at that. So if we reduce the commercial losses and reduce the technical losses, then we could now shift the whole cost to the consumer like me and you. So in the coming months, I think PLC have a tough time because there was a meeting that was called last minute, was cancelled. I don't know why it was cancelled, but I'm thinking maybe the powers that be felt it's not the right time to go and start looking at reviewing electricity tariffs. But for now, it's hard times, but we are building up a debt. It's more indebtedness in the sector.
But don't we also have to look at the impact of tariff increases on production?
If you've seen the last tariff that was done, it's the first time that the trend is being changed. In the past, residential was paying more, it was paying less, and industry was paying more. In the last tariff, PLC is trying to reverse the trend, where residential will pay more and industry will pay less. So for a company like your this studio, Pan-African TV, now will be paying lesser than what they would have been paying last year based on the new tariff that has been increased. And that's the trajectory that the policy wants to go. That government wants to make sure that industry pay less. Then also people who are at home and uses their domestic meters for business will have to now go and get business meters for their business so that they pay less electricity. My take is that when we're able to achieve that and separate the domestic meters from the the industrial meters from the domestic meters, then we should start looking at peak and off-peak, whereby if you're a domestic user and in the day you are there building up huge air conditions as a domestic, then you pay more. Because since everybody's at work, the industry should be cheaper, and people who are home and have 5 air conditioning on should pay more because they can afford to be home and have air conditionings on. So for us, those are some of the policies that we are trying to get government to adapt, so that industry that is now having to now employ and be productive pay less in tariffs.
Obviously, we're going to take another short break from this conversation, and we are in conversation with Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku, who is the Executive Director of the Institute of Energy Policy and Research. And when we come back, I'd like to examine something which is new, something which has just come up. We are being told that we can actually buy our crude, our oil requirements with gold. Is that a feasible policy? When we come back from the break, short break.
Welcome to Calm Trading and Farms Limited. We are the sole importers and distributors of FM World Rulong Plus Plus combined harvesters. We are the sole importers and distributors of FM World combined machines. If you buy from us, spare parts are readily available. Our machines can pick and harvest logged rice as well as standing rice, and is 102 horsepower. FM World tractors also have 110 horsepower, which is fully hydraulic and can break hard grounds. Our rotavators is also 102 horsepower. It works perfectly in muddy areas and in lands where tractors cannot operate. World combined harvesters come with automatic gear drive, diesel power engine, 1.77 cubic grain storage tanks, 2.2 meter curtain width, 360-degree unloading pipe and sunshade, as well as 2 diesel filters. Our branches include Tamale Airport area, Accra Ritz Junction. Kindly call us on 0278 223 811 or 0550 108 899, as well as 020 1600 727. Don't buy fake, buy original. Buy from us now. Calm Trading and Farms Limited, your best importers and suppliers of FM World Rulong Plus Plus combined harvesters.
Welcome back to Talk Time, and our pleasure to have with us Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku, Executive Director of the Institute for Policy and Research. Now, sir, we are being told that very soon we will be using gold to buy oil. Is that feasible?
When you put it like that, is it feasible? People have come to me and said that, look, everything is feasible under the earth. Yes, maybe not, but depends how you go about it. For me, when I heard this last week, I was a bit taken aback because, look, I'm an industry player. If you are to call 5 civil societies in the energy sector, you will call the likes of me. And straight away, I went on the phone to other civil society like Dr. Manteyao, ASEP, Imani, Kofi Bento, and everybody didn't know what was going on. So clearly, the civil society space have not been consulted. So we tried to, say, look, let's talk to the other chamber of mines, and clearly they were also not in the know. One of the things that came up was that this is a policy that's being pushed, that not a lot of consultation has been done. And if you look at what is needed to do such a policy, clearly we don't have what it takes to do the policy. You want to buy, and it's not oil as in crude oil, it's the petroleum products. Let me do you some small maths. We do about $400 million a month in petroleum products in Ghana, which equates 4.8 billion a year. In the last budget that was read, the total amount of gold that was exported out of the country was 4.8 billion. Okay? So it tells you that you are looking at the total amount of gold that was exported as equivalent money to now buy products. Then we see a policy document from Honorable Jinapor saying that the big mining companies have to give 20% of their gold to Bank of Ghana. Then PPMMC would have to buy all the gold from community mines and the small scale miners. We're like, okay, let's do the computation. 20% of all the gold from the Mineral Commission website, 20% of all the gold from the big mining companies will give you about 566,000 ounces. 20%. Then all the gold from the community mining and small scale mining, according to Minerals Commission again, is about 1.2 million ounces. So you add 1.2 million ounces to the 566, roughly is about 1.8 million ounces a year. That's the gold you get from those two, as per the letter issued by the government, which is the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources. Then let's go to the 4.8 billion that we need. How much gold do you need to pay for 4.8 billion? Using about 1,720 price in the world market price of gold, about 1,720 per ounce, yes. You divide that by the 4.8 billion, you would now end up with about 230,000 ounces a month, because we need $400 million every month. So we're looking at about 230,000 ounces of gold every month. Multiply that by 12, you're in the region of about 2.8, right? 2.8 million ounce of gold. So the total gold you can get is about 1.7. The total gold you need is 2.8. So clearly, even if it's a feasible policy, you do not have enough gold to buy the petroleum products. Then you go into the second question is, are they aware of the losses in the system? Most of these companies that buy products are making losses. Not only are they making losses, they rely on the banks to give them 45 days, 60 days, 90 days credit. Nobody does spot buy. Me and you go to the filling station, we pay cash for our products. But when we buy cash for our products, the OMCs, which is either the Guel, the Total, the Allied Oils, they take 60 days to 90 days to pay the BDC, and the BDC also pay the OTC, the oil trading company. So it means that if we are to do this policy, not only do you need 230,000 ounces a month, you need double that, because it takes 2 months for you to claw back your money, and so you need double. So clearly, the math doesn't add up. The practicality of it is difficult to do. Then we have now come up to say that, look, if you look at the value chain, government doesn't play any role. The OTC that brings the products in, the BDCs that buy the products, the OMCs that sell the product, what role does government play? So if you are government and you don't play any role in the transaction, don't you think you would have called the industry players to sit them around the table and say that, look, this is what I'm thinking. Is it possible? Instead of you guys doing your transaction with dollar, I want you guys to be able to use gold to do your transaction. We will facilitate it by Bank of Ghana buying the gold. Is this something you guys can do? None of that has been done. So some of us are saying that, look, government should slow down. Most of the times we've heard of good policies that's been implemented badly. We can talk so many times about the Sino-Hydro butter trade, which a lot of people said was not a butter, it was a loan. Government was like, no, it's butter, which didn't work. There's a lot of transactions that civil society have come out to say that, look, this is not possible. And government saying, no, it's possible. In the long day, it didn't work. Japa, didn't happen. PDS, didn't happen. Ake, didn't happen. So we have a good track record in analyzing the situation and saying that, take your time. Maybe you can do this side by side the traditional policy, and maybe in 4 or 5 years you switch over. Okay, but for now, if you read what the Vice President said at the program over the weekend, he said that, oh, going forward, we're going to take dollar out of the calculation of petroleum products, so then it will come down. I'm sorry. You can't take dollar out because, you see, you need a metric system. You need a base of computation. CD cannot be your base of computation, because I'll give you a typical thing that might happen. Okay, so you buy gold from me at a dollar price of today's rate, and you give me CDs. And tomorrow, the gold price drops. You've made a loss. And you've already benchmarked it at the CD. But you've made the loss on that. So who's going to absorb those losses? If, let's say, every time you are buying the gold at a dollar price at a certain CD, and you are now absorbing certain risk. So there are a lot of things that I think we need a good 3, 4 months, 6 months to 1 year to judge on this policy. The likes of you who have been around for a very long time, who understand how some of these policies normally work. The like of us, who is our daily job to scrutinize some of these things. And let's all sit around the table and come up with a solution. Maybe in the long term, we have something, but for now, we don't.
Now, sir, our refinery is not working. Why? Can it ever work?
Yes, we hope it works. There is a document in circulation that government is trying to give it on a concession to a consortium. We don't know where that is now, but we are hoping that is effected by the end of the year, so that from next year they will start working. But we need the refinery to work. We've asked that question. I mean, I have a document out about 3 weeks ago asking why is it that after 8 months of the new board, 9 months of an interim management committee, all that, we have not refined a single crude. But we can't let the refinery sit there and rot. So yes, the government has given a go-ahead for something to happen, just that it's slow, and as the civil society space, we're having a meeting with the management of TORN next week. So we hope that something comes out of that from that meeting, and we push the government to get the place working.
Do I understand that we are handing it over to a private sector operator?
Yes, for a tolling arrangement. You see, Tema Oil Refinery has a peculiar problem. There's a lot of investment needed at Tema Oil Refinery. Government, who is the majority shareholder, doesn't have the money to do that investment. We need what you call an hydrotreater, okay? Because now the sulfur coming out of Tema Oil Refinery doesn't meet the international standards. About 1,500 ppm. The standard now is about 50 ppm. So you need to build a hydrotreater that takes out the sulfur from the products. That costs money. There is a lot of changes that need to go in terms of equipment change. When you give them 1 million barrels of oil, they use some of that oil to power the refinery. That's clearly losses. They need to build a pipeline just a small distance from across the road to the refinery to get gas to come in, and they can use the gas to power. That also needs money. Clearly, after government taking the toll debt recovery levy for so many years, we don't know what they've done with it, but the government doesn't have the money to give the refinery. So you need a private investor who is prepared to spend that money and take the place on a concession, then over a period recoup his money, then hand it over to you with all the work done. So for where we sit, we think that is a much better option under the circumstances, that if they are giving certain KPIs, that you do this, and recover it over 5 years and give the refinery back, I think is best for us.
Would you permit me to be a little unfair to you?
No problem. I don't mind.
Yeah, but if you don't have money to fix the refinery, does it make sense then to have money to build a national cathedral?
No, it doesn't.
The cornerstone of which is imported from Israel.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm sure every Ghanaian is on the same page on the national cathedral. For me, as a businessman for 21 years, you run a business and you only do corporate social responsibility when you have profits. No company making losses, indebted, spends money on corporate social responsibilities. So same thing applies to government. I've always said that Ghana Incorporated should be run as a business. You can't be doing things that you need money to do other things. Today on social media, I saw a maternity bed, a cheap compound from, I think, the Upper East or Upper West area, the picture of it. And I said to myself, it can't be true. Maybe it's true. But that's how sad, and as humans, we try to convince ourselves that there can be a part of the country where that is the maternity ward of a cheap compound. So if you are trying to spend money, and the money we've already spent on such a fantasy project, it's unfortunate. We can only build something like that if we have excesses. As a nation with so much problems, you are regular on Kokroko. It took Kwadwo Nsafoah to raise money to buy incubators for certain communities where children are born and without incubators, they die. But we are on record to do Agenda 111. We are on record to do the cathedral. Look, I'm MPP, true and true. I'm trying to be the flag bearer of MPP. I don't know if you know.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, for what election?
For 2024.
Oh, you want to compete, Baumia?
I am competing. I am competing all of them, yes. I am on record to do that. But there are certain things, let's call a spade, okay? I believe in tackling the fundamentals, okay? So if we keep talking about bridging infrastructure gap and doing certain things, but with what money? The reason our dollar to the cedi is the way it is because we've not saved money. So yes, you're not being unfair. It's a very a question that everybody agrees with, it that the National Cathedral should be stopped.
But now that you've introduced this other element, I didn't know that you wanted to be president. First of all, why do you want to be president?
I think I can do a much better job than all those that are doing the work. I've been around since '98. My work with Honorable Hawa Yakubu from a very early age, I've been around. I mean, there was a time when, I think there was a show one day on Peace FM that you, Madam Ama Beniado, and other people were on there. And my name came up. I don't think you even remember. It was a story on the Chronicle. At that time, Hawa had left the Ministry of Tourism, and they said that somebody has been paid $1.5 million as a consultant. And everybody thought it was Jacob Ichibilamte who brought the person. But the money I was paid as a consultant at that time at the Ministry of Tourism was $1,500. But Chronicle, no $1.5 million, no. So, look, I've been around. I've been in the midst of things. I've really worked hard within the 8 years of President Kufuor, and have sat back as a businessman and watched what's going on. It's not a crooked dagger. It's really simple common sense, somebody who's committed and have the vigor to do good. Okay, I keep asking myself that why is that space the only space that anybody who doesn't have anything goes in there and come out a rich person? It's because we don't put Ghana first, and that's what I want to do. It might sound cliche, but I believe that I have the will to do better than what everybody's doing.
What is it that the others have not done that you would do? More specific, concrete.
They've not changed the way Ghana is run. We have to change the way Ghana is run. We didn't have time for Ghana. Look, post-independence, we didn't have time to have a Ghana. If you read the history of other countries, they've had time to have that country be that country. We, as Ghana, we've not had time for that. And I think that we need to pause look at within Ghana and do Ghana for Ghana. We've not done that, and that's what I want to do. Reform almost every facet of our sector, and that I think is the key to set us on the right footing for the next 50, 60 years. If we continue on the trajectory, which is based mostly on the colonial foundation, that is where we are getting it wrong. And basically, that is my point. We need to just pause, look within, scrap the foundation, the building, everything, and start from ground zero. We need to do that as a nation. If not, we are just basically building skyscraper on an infested foundation.
Dr. Bawumia used to sound like that.
Yes, but there's a difference.
Sound like that.
Yes, there's a difference. I
What's
think
the difference?
The difference is that, you see, economic principles are like a coin with two sides. In every classroom, everybody would have a certain idea in economics. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that the person is lying, but does it pertain to the environment that you find yourself? Most of these economic principles and the things that Dr. Bawumia studied is a Western ideology. Does it work here? I'll give you a typical example. In marketing, they have this thing about A, B, C, and they say, oh, I'm a A, Joy FM is a A, so they speak English and blah, 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 and they only market to a certain area. Oh, somebody is a C or D, so they market. So you look at a certain product where they are marketing it to certain people based on the categorization in the Western world. Today, if you look at East Legon and you think East Legon is an A area, so you're going to market certain big thing to them. Everybody before they moved to East Legon, live in Latebiokoshi or maybe somewhere in Kumasi before they came. They have just come into money, so they live in East Legon. Doesn't make them an A. So for me, I just think that Ghana has a peculiar circumstances. We need to do Ghana for Ghana. And that is why I'm saying that, look, people who are doing the natural politics that we have and the way things are done, if we continue in that trajectory, be it NDC or MPP, everybody that comes in wants to do things and continue away from left off. Oh, you heard that John Mahama was the most borrowed president, right? Just at 2016. Now we are saying that Nadu is the most borrowed president. Why is that? Because there's a fundamental exponential growth in debt. And that is the problem. We need to scrap that, look within. Like I said, yes, it's been said by a lot of people, but I passionately feel that we need to do that.
Well, we're taking a short break. I think the conversation has gotten more interesting than I expected. And when we come back, I'd like to ask a few questions about the race for the presidential candidature of the New Patriotic Party. Short break.
Trasacco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasacco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasacco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Well, welcome back. This is Talk Time, and our conversation is getting a bit more interesting than I expected. We are talking to Mr. Kwadwo Nsafoah Poku, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Planning, for Policy and Research. And he's just said that he could be running for the presidential candidature of the New Patriotic Party. Now, sir, do you think that the process for selecting the candidate, the presidential candidate in the party, is fair? And I ask this because you have a situation where functionaries of the party, who are supposed to be neutral, are actually declaring support for some candidates and so on. Do you think that this process is fair?
Look, it's come a long way. For what it is now, it's much fairer than what it was in 2007. Looking at the 2012 update of the constitution, or so it says review, now making the polling station and the coordinators part of the process. So now in total we have about 205,000 electoral college. So about 190,000 or so about polling station executives. Yes, it's make it a bit fair, but at the top level, you're having, like you said, people who are declaring for certain people. For someone like me, in early part of this year, January, when I decided to do this, I was probably the only person that was not a household name. A lot of the party grassroots didn't know who I was. So I had to basically embark on a regional tour to let people get to know that there's a young man like myself who wants to do this. And the feedback I got was that the issue of where the executives, which are the regional and constituency executives, can whip the polling stations in line is no more. It's no more. The polling station feel that there's a disconnect between them and the top hierarchy. And it's true. They feel that anytime there's spoils of war, the spoils of war is only at the top. They at the grassroots don't get anything. And they are really looking for somebody who will work with them to basically change that narrative. And that is what I want to do. We've seen the famous video on social media when John Boydu was going to contest, and Wontumi and some other chairman went and said, look, we are going to work, and he went and John Boydu lost. Simple meaning that the regional chairman only has one vote. Okay, they cannot pledge their entire region to John Boydu because the people who are in the have their own mind. One of the things that will interest you is that before, polling station executives were old men, uneducated, who were polling station. Today, my brother, people who are polling station executives are graduates, PhD, well-educated, working individuals who are polling station executives in some remote part of the country. You go to New Dubiasi in Ashanti region and the youth that will come out as polling station executives, you'll be marveled. So the dynamics is changing. The only thing I want to do is empower them. So when you empower them and they have something to do, then they can make a much more sound decision. Today, the empowerment is not there. They are enlightened, they are educated, but because the empowerment, we haven't gotten there, yes, they can still be influenced one way or the other.
Have you got the millions they say it takes to run for president?
I don't think
you have the financial.
I don't have. I think I'm the only one that did not look at my pocket before I decided to do this. I just look at the thought I have, the goodwill, and then the innovative ideas that I have. But clearly, I don't think that you need that much millions as the CDD put out there that you need to run a presidential campaign. The national campaign for a party, yes, you need to mobilize resources to do that. But for the internal contest, I don't think because I've been going around for the last 9 months. And I know how much I spend when I go around. People are even calling me and saying, Poku, don't worry, when you come, we'll pay for your own hotel. Come and just talk to us. Okay? The good thing for me is that I've been on TV for the last 12 years. Joy News, TV3, Metro, a lot of stations. And I have that visibility and people know that, look, this is the gentleman that says as it is. Until I declared that I want to stand on the ticket of the MPP, a lot of people didn't think I was MPP. Because I'm able to honestly say it as it is and shame the devil, say the truth. You know, the propaganda thing I don't think is helping the nation. So I don't have the money, but I'm looking that when the campaign proper starts, I could do a lot of fundraising, rely on the family watchers to see if they will let it go and then see if I can tap into that.
Well, so thank you very much for coming into our
Thank
studio. We are most grateful that you came, and we do hope that from time to time you stop by for these conversations, for the benefit of our viewers, for our own benefit, and for the good of the nation. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, my brother. I mean, you are one of those icons in this country that I've always said that yourself, Kwadwo Bakon, there should be a monument in your honor in this country.
Wow.
Yes, I believe that because as kids growing up, you know, when you didn't get news a lot. So when you hear in the Rawlings era, when you hear that, oh, there was people who gathered and when Rawlings did a press conference, the press conference was abandoned because Kwadwo Bakon and Kwesi Price showed up. They were like, you know. Mm-hmm. So in Fantino Town back in the day, some of you were our idols in journalism. So we hope that one day somebody will see fit to have a monument for yourself and Kwadwo Bakon.
Wow. Anyway, viewers, I mean, this is Talk Time. We try to bring you the best in everything. Best in news, best in current affairs, best in entertainment, best in everything. Please keep your dial on this platform until we meet again next week. And for our viewers out there, 46 African countries, South America and Europe, please stay with us. We bring you the best from Ghana and the best from the world. Bye-bye.